Okay, so time for another newspaper review. And the newspaper that I'm going to review is this, The National. Just try and get there. I'm focusing on the cover there because that will be quite significant. I'll come back to it in a minute. Okay, so this one's a little bit different because this is not nationwide insofar as UK nationwide. It is a Scottish paper and it's based in Scotland. I bought this yesterday in Lockerbie. The price is 70 pence. I'd heard of this, but it's the first time I've actually come across it now. I actually have one thing in common with this paper, and that is I put my cards on the table. I'm 100% for a United Kingdom, and this newspaper puts their cards on the table. They are 100% pro independence, and that's probably the only thing I'll be able to say positive about this newspaper. The fact that they are honest. They don't make any, they don't beat around the bush. So you can see there the paper for an independent Scotland. Little nice map of Scotland where the eye on national should be. Um, this cover is almost comical. It has Nicola Sturgeon looking like the great saviour. A very sort of determined look, looking into the future. And then it has images of the Scottish Saltire, Andy Murray in the middle. Although, as I understand it, Andy Murray is not a nationalist. Um, as far as I know, he didn't vote for the Yes campaign in the referendum, or at least he has said he doesn't want to make his politics public. But I certainly haven't seen him as being a poster boy for Scottish independence, so they're clearly using him without his permission. They've also got Catalan flags there because the Scottish nationalists and the Catalan nationalists have that sort of empathy. I saw a lot of them actually on referendum day. And then, of course, look at the bottom. Donald Trump, Boris Johnson, Theresa May, they all have unflattering photos. They have Trident, they have a big bomb there. That's actually, I assume, a Russian bomb from Syria, but they've got an unflattering picture of Theresa May. This is definitely tabloid-esque sort of. This is definitely a tabloid-esque approach. Um, the international section is relatively uncontroversial. They talk about floods in the Philippines and so on. But page after page, in terms of what they are promoting, is so blindingly obvious. And like I say, they're honest about it. They're not pretending that they're neutral. 2016, the year that never was. Obviously, we're at the end of the year now. They've got a bit of a review. If you just look there, they have Phew, it's Hillary. Heroes. England nil, Scotland 3. That's rugby. Shame Farage resigns as UKIP leader. The Great Scottish Bake Off. Scotland to remain in the EU. It's infantile, to be quite honest, this sort of reporting. I basically interpret this newspaper as the mouthpiece of the Scottish Nationalist Party. That's how it comes across. Um, and it's a bit pathetic, actually. Hope and humanity, our only chance of survival, has a little child flying the saltire. If there was an English paper that behaved this way, people will be saying it's far right and it's blood and soil nationalism. I don't really see much difference with this. I think the paper is vociferously xenophobic in its whole approach. Just glancing through it here, they're smart about it. They're not like outright vilifying the English or anything like that, but there's a real undercurrent of Scotland is great, everywhere else in the UK is the enemy, and it's toxic. I don't make any bones about it. I despise Scottish nationalism. I think it's going to destroy this country if it ever gets its way, and it's undemocratic as well, because for all of Sturgeon and the SNP's talk of listening to the Scottish people on the EU referendum, they continue to ignore the results of the 2014 independence referendum in which a clear majority of people voted to stay in the Union. I just think it's very sad that they're putting forward this message that they are offering positivity and a positive future, when what they're basically doing is fostering deep xenophobia and vilification of the United Kingdom. That's what it is. And it's this notion that Scotland can only be great as an independent country. That's rubbish. Scotland's greatest times, actually, the Scottish Enlightenment was within the Union. I'm not going to go over all the reasons. I'm just flicking through as I'm talking here. Um, I'd never come across this before. I'd heard of it, but this first time I've actually bought it. Some people might say I'm a hypocrite buying it, but I kind of take the view I can't talk about something if I'm not looking at it. And also, it's good to know what the enemy is thinking. And the way I feel about it is the United Kingdom is like a family. Now, if a member of that family was having difficulty and was threatening to leave the house, you wouldn't just let them go. You'd want to talk it through. You'd want to passionately try and patch things up or keep them. But what I find obnoxious about the attitude of this is the worldview that Scottish nationalism is hope and optimism and everything that's wonderful. This utopian vision, similar to totalitarian ideologies, actually. They also offered utopian visions, um, and is vilifying every other sort of viewpoint. Now, it's not necessarily about the nationalism, although I despise that. It's just the sheer arrogance of the editorial in this that we are the light, and it's like such blatant propaganda. I mean, put it this way: the National by UK national papers certainly would have campaigned during the referendum. So most of them, both in Scotland and in the rest of the UK, that were pro-union would have made passionate cases for that. But when you have a newspaper that is built around nationalism, to me that's quite concerning, and it should raise eyebrows. Um, this isn't racism in the sense of black-white racism. It's not that sort of racism, but it's basically vilifying the United Kingdom, and to me that is a form of xenophobia. Now, that's what it is. I don't think anyone could gloss that over because it's saying everything British is evil and wicked and tyrannical, and everything purely Scottish is pure. And they're presenting Sturgeon as the saviour of the free world, which is a joke beyond. Firstly, let's get one thing clear: Nicola Sturgeon is First Minister of Scotland. She's not a head of state. She's not a world leader. She's First Minister of a devolved government in a sovereign state, the United Kingdom. Scotland is a nation within that state. Those are the facts. And if you believe the National, if you believe the sort of rhetoric from Scottish nationalists, you would think that she is the leader of the free world. Give me a break. Give me a break. I mean, it's almost laughable. I hope they're right about the fact that they're the only newspaper that supports an independent Scotland. Unless I'm mistaken, that's not technically true. During the referendum, because this has been launched since the referendum, there was, I believe, one other Scottish paper that supported independence. I forget what it was now, but I actually hope that claim is true because the less support for breaking up this country, the better, as far as I'm concerned. But it's just this black and white worldview that independent Scotland is pure and the British are wicked. I just think that's disgusting, to be quite honest. Of course, it's very typical of nationalists, but just this parody. I mean, the Great Scottish Bake Off, that's just petty, just pettiness, because they have such deep hatred and contentment of Britishness, not so much Englishness, because this is the thing, the Scottish nationalists are always saying, oh, but we're not anti-English, we're not racist towards the English, and at high level they're not, because they're smart. Nicola Sturgeon isn't stupid. She's not going to come out and say something horrible about the English. Low-level nationalists certainly have that racism, but the Great Scottish Bake Off, I mean, that's just petty. As far as I know, the two presenters, one's from Liverpool, the other, unless I'm mistaken, Mary Berry's from the south of England. But just the alternative year, it's pathetic. To be honest, this is not so much a review as a rant, and I admit that. I admit that because this is not a normal paper. Um, it's just a propaganda rag. I mean, I'll give them the due. It's a very colourful cover, but seriously, look at this. They're portraying Theresa May in the most unflattering photo. They're portraying Nicola Sturgeon as the saviour of the free world. I mean, you would not get the Times or the Guardian or any of the other UK national papers having an unflattering photo of Nicola Sturgeon on the front cover. Okay, granted, you might get the tabloids doing that. But if the National wants to be a serious paper for independence, then, they're not making a very good start. And it's also curious, whoa, it's Hillary, phew, for a movement that's supposed to be socially democratic. Hillary Clinton's close to Wall Street. She's not exactly the best, surely they'd be advocating for Bernie Sanders if that was the case. I think it's just a case of, well, we're going to go against the trend. I mean, I'm not a right wing populist, but it's quite obvious what they're trying to do. Jim Farage resigns as UKIP leader. Well, again, I'm not a huge fan of Farage, but what was shameful was that a democratically elected leader of his party, a party that got almost 4 million votes, was hounded by a gang of nationalist thugs in Edinburgh. That's what happened to Mr. Farage a few years ago. And, I would be saying the same thing if a gang of UKIP people attacked left wingers, but that's the sort of toxic environment that Scottish nationalism brings. Because when Mr. Farage was attacked, it was not about being against racism and all, it was petty, narrow, ugly Scottish nationalism. Um, I just think frankly, I wish it would piss off. I hate it. That simple. I do see it as a threat to my country. And my country is the United Kingdom. Anyway, I'll just be going round in circles, but that's my non-review of the National. That will be the first and only time I buy this rag. But it is, for posterity and for interest and so on. There it is. Um, yeah. I mean, like I say, they have neutral reports that are often to do with constitutional issues in the UK, to do with international news, but just, ramming their divisive nationalist agenda down people's throats and presenting it as black and white, like Scottish nationalism is pure, you will be re-educated, and the wicked British are responsible for all the world's problems, and I hate that mentality, and that's what this promotes. I'd compare Scottish nationalists to Kremlin propagandists. It's pretty similar. Both pick and choose what they report, both vilify the other side. So that's how I feel about it. Nationalists, I couldn't care less what you think. You can thumb down this video, you can insult me, and be uncaring, because frankly, I'm not making these videos to please you. I'm just making them because they have to be made. That is my thoughts on the National.